Hi, welcome to Audrey Meyer Pro Foil Talk, the new foil media by Watersport Media TotalSUP. Today's guest is Sarah Hauser, and Sarah got awarded in the Guinness World Records for the biggest wave ever windsurfed by a female. What an amazing achievement. Hi, Sarah, how are you doing?
Hi, Audrey. Doing great. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank you for being here. It's always so much fun to share story with you. I know we had a previous podcast before, and I'm just so always amazed to have kick-ass women to talk with amazing water women. So Sarah, tell us a little bit more about you, because there's this Guinness record, but there's also so much more about you. So can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. So I'm originally from the island of New Caledonia. It's a French island in the South Pacific, and this is where I fell in love with water sports. But I didn't right away went into making a career out of it. I first started studying computer science and applied math and ended up getting a degree as an engineer. And so that took me about 5 years where I was not in the water at all. And that kind of showed me how much I missed it and wanted it in my life. And so I made the decision to move to Maui and pursue my passions over there. And so now I've been living in Maui, Hawaii for the last 8 years now. And I've competed in windsurfing on the International Windsurfing Tour. I've also competed in stand-up paddle, both race and in the waves. And I've always done different sports on the water, surfing to foiling now. So yeah, that's how the passion kind of took me to this career, and a bunch of other adventures, doing philanthropy projects in Peru and starting the Trashy Selfie project with Paige Jones here in Maui. So much stuff, so much adventures and people to meet along the way. So yeah, it's cool to reflect on that.
That's amazing. And yeah, you're just such an amazing, inspiring woman doing all those water sport. So tell us a little bit more about how you got into foiling, and how was the first session when you started, when you tried foiling?
Yes.
Oh, my dog.
Oh, wow. Yeah, something to say about foiling.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it was it was funny. It was at first it was our friends P. Johns and Sean Ordonez that were getting into it, and I remember watching them getting their foils two and a half years ago. And at first I would just paddle out with a longboard because it was usually on super small bays that they were just surf foiling little crappy waves that we used to not even look at before for anything. And so I was out there with them, and then it was like, can I try? And they would pass me the ball for a few seconds. And then I was able to borrow some equipment, and it was kind of the best timing to learn it, because I remember we had this kind of crazy 2 months of rain and onshore wind in Maui where there was nothing to do really in the water except learning how to surf foil. And so we would put on full wetsuits and go out in the rain and a strong onshore wind and have a blast and just like learn to fly for 2 seconds. And that evolved into now the windsurf foiling a little bit, and mostly the wing foiling now, which I love to do. I do downwinders out from Maliko to Kanaha, and even just like playing the waves along the coast, like all the outside reefs. When the swell is small, they still have some little swell breaking, and so it's so much fun to play with the wing foil in that.
That's awesome. I can feel your energy and your enthusiasm into the sport. And we all are, right? All of us who are trying this sport and got hooked. That's just amazing how enthusiastic we become. So what are you riding these days? Which board? And you were talking about prone foiling, and you talked about winging or wing foiling, however you want to call it. Which type of board are you using right now?
So I use a 29-liter boat that's full 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 two in length. I start to forget those things. There's so many pieces of equipment, but yeah, it's a custom board shaped by Sean Ordonez, and I'm super stoked because I'm able to use it for prone and for wing foiling. It was a little technical to learn because it's very small and it doesn't have foot straps. So to water start, I sink the board underwater and I kind of grip my feet onto the pads and manage to get up and then fly. But it was hard to learn, but it was worth it because once I'm up, it's so small and compact, and I already know the board from prone foiling with it. But then I'm able to progress so much in prone foiling because I use that same board for wing foiling. On lighter days, though, I like to steal my husband's equipment because he has floatier boards that are much more fun on those days where it's super light, where I could never water style on my sinking 29-liter board. And in terms of wings, I'm still like using a lot of different brands, trying out the Ozone wings, the Airbrush wing, the Quattro wings, the Slingshot wings. I'm just not set yet on a particular brand, and it's fun to also see how the different brands are designing very different things because it's still so early in the sport that every year or every 6 months there is a new concept, and you can have a lot of fun trying those different things.
Yes, absolutely. I can second that every month there's new equipment coming out. And I just want to make sure for people listening to the podcast, you mentioned that you're riding a board which is 29 liter, which is tiny. So whoever is listening and wants to get into the sport, tell us a little bit about what you started with. Did you start right away with a 29 liter board?
No, I started with a much bigger board. I started with a board I was able to float on. So I would be able to really get stand up on that board and kind of as if it was a big stand-up paddle, So that's what you want. Whatever your weight is, I'm very small and light person, so it might not be relevant, but I started on a 70-liter board. And I'm 115 pounds, so 50 kilos. But yeah, you want something that's at least 20 liters more than your weight in kilo, I think, if not more, to really be able to stand up and first focus on the wing itself, how it feels to be up on a board with the wing in your arms, in your hands, and then pump that board, pump the foil so that you can get flying. And then little by little, you can go to smaller boards. I would say, though, that there is a case for going way smaller if that's your goal instead of being in between, because either you have a board that really floats you or a board that you can sink to do that type of water start that I'm doing. But the in-between zone where it's too small to really stand up on, but too big to sink underwater and do that water start is not going to help. So there's, that point where if you want to go small, then go all the way.
And those guys are definitely seconding that. And also my birds here are getting crazy. And that's a great tips that you give for people who want to get into the sport, because trying with equipment which is not appropriate, right, which is way too small, just going to make the learning curve way longer. And considering that you're a water woman, you surf, you SUP, you windsurf, you kite surf as well. And so it's just it's so much easier when you do all those sport than someone who is just maybe doing one or two. And so guys, if you're listening, that's a great tip to learn. Don't take some equipment which is too small. I remember starting, my board was 120 liter, and I stayed for a while to get the hang of it, of doing my jibe and my tack and feeling comfortable. And once in a while I still take it out to go cruising, right, just to go cruise around and look for turtles or whatever. So Sarah, that brings me to my next question. What would be the tip that you gave to someone who wants to learn? Obviously we talked already about taking a board big enough, but what else can you tell us about a tip that you will suggest for people who want to learn?
So I would say that there's two possibilities. Either you already know how to do a water sport, and you should build onto that to kind of create that in-between step from the sport that you know to wing foiling. So let's say you're a stand-up paddler, then maybe you can get a foil under your stand-up paddle and learn how to SUP foil. And you will learn to get comfortable with the sensation of foiling. Then the last thing to do is to add the wing. Or if you're a kite surfer or a windsurfer, then maybe you can have a board for foiling and windsurf foil or kite surf foil, and become familiar with the sensation of foiling. And then the last thing to do is to add the wing. So that would be my advice if you already know any of these sports. If you do not know any of these sports and you want to learn to wing foil, then I will break it down by learning to foil, getting towed behind a boat or a jet ski. If you have access to that, that's the fastest way to become comfortable with the sensation. And not everybody's going to be able to teach that properly. It's definitely a special skill. I know that the Schweitzer here in Maui have a lot of knowledge and tools available, so they're able to give courses to people and like tow them behind a little boat and give them just the right amount of speed and tension in the rope so that they can get on top of the foiling sensation and learn how to get comfortable with that. And then people can learn to get comfortable with the wing by being first on a big stand-up paddle that doesn't have any foil under, but just so that you learn the sensation of interacting with the wind and how that feels in your arms. And then you can bring the two together by putting a foil under the board that you've been winging on. And you really want to create as many in-between steps as you can so that it's easy to get there. If you're just creating this massive giant step, it's going to be so much struggle that the process is not going to be that fun. But if you can find small steps, then all of it is going to be a fun journey.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what we're doing here in the Dominican Republic. We bring people behind the boat and we teach them step by step. So what I heard you saying is like really important of breaking it down, breaking all those little steps to keep it fun, right? Because that's what's about, having fun and enjoying the process, right? So talking
and you want to be able, sorry to interrupt, but it just always reminds me of how, like, I used to play piano, and the beauty in piano is that I could just work the right hand and then just work the left hand and then work the two together. And it's kind of that same idea of being able to break things down to make it accessible.
Yeah. And I love that. And do you remember, Sarah, your first wing foil session? How was it? Was it like something you remember, something you hated, something you're like, I'm not going to do that anymore, or something like, I'm so stuck? Do you remember how it went?
Yeah, I was kind of, to be fully honest, I was on a team of people who were not investing in the proper equipment right away. So I was just trying to make do with a windsurf board that I put a foil under and borrowing a wing from someone else that was a bit too big for me at the time. So the first few times were difficult. I was a bit frustrating, and I was just feeling like, okay, I'm flying, but I feel out of control, not like I can really surf or enjoy this. And this, it's really when I finally got to a smaller board and a smaller wing too, because it was summer in Maui where it's nuking wind, it's 35 knots all the time. So I was able to get my hands on a 2.6 wing instead of the typical 3.5 or like something like for kids basically. And once I had that and a smaller boat, things started to get really fun. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so free, I feel like I'm flying. But yeah, don't feel bad if your first experience are not dreamy, because sometimes you just got to push through that phase. And for me, it was seeing everyone else having so much fun that gave me the confidence that at some point it was going to get fun. But there is a process, a journey of figuring out your equipment. And especially when you don't want to put like millions right away, it can take a little time, but it's worth it. And it gets super fun. And there's more. With more and more people getting in the sport, there's also more equipment available that's secondhand, more choice out there of sizes. So it should only get easier from now on.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you said, because I mean, I started foiling maybe a year and a half. Well, actually, I started with SUP foiling more than 2 years ago. And the time there was not much equipment available, right? So we girl, and I know you were a tiny person, I'm a little taller, but still we had to use the men equipment, which was not really appropriate for a size. Either it was too big or it was giving too much lift. So today the equipment is much more appropriate. There even some small kids, right? In Maui, you guys have a lot of little kids getting into foiling. So it's pretty amazing how the equipment evolved the last, 2 years?
Yeah, that's going to allow so many more people to get into the sport and have a much easier time rather than piecing things together that are not meant to be for, like you said, like smaller people. So yeah, that's very exciting.
Yeah. So we talked about equipment, which is evolving. And now I want to talk about a different aspect, because we both personal trainer, we're training people to stay in shape in the water and to push the limits. So the equipment is evolving and we're pushing the limits, but then we as a man or woman, we are still the same person. And then there's injury, right, of doing it wrong or overusing, doing it with a wrong technique. And I know we talked about, and you created something which is great for wingboarder or for AWI athletes. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Of course, yeah. So it all started with my personal experience of doing water sports where I would use my shoulders a lot. So windsurfing, but stand-up paddling also, like especially in racing, the number of time you have to stroke the water, and then with wing foiling, same thing. You know, you're hanging on the wing. I'm not a kite surfer, but I'm sure there's a toll on your shoulders as well. So as a professional athlete who was doing a lot of this sport, I had to come up with ways to keep my body healthy through this overuse, basically. Like a body is not necessarily meant to go through so much pulling and overhead movements. So I was able to learn techniques through mobility training that help my body stay out of injuries and stay strong for all the sports. And as I became a personal trainer over the past few years, I started wanting to share some of that through online programs. So I recently created a program called Solid Shoulders, and it's a mobility program. So it's not a full strength, full body program, but it's more of something that you add to your routine that you already have. And that's hyper focusing on that part of the body, that shoulder and upper back part of the body. And it's interesting because here in Maui with the clients that I train, I have some clients who ask me to help condition them for foiling. And what I find out a lot of the time is that for lower body, you're going to look to build endurance in the legs to be able to pump and react to the foil. But for upper body, the first limitation is not strength, it's mobility. It's the ability to be in that position of having your arms over your head without your back being completely rounded and being in a posture where you're going to put some strain in your shoulders. So thing I work the most on with people is increasing the range of motion in the shoulders and upper back so that they can be comfortable and hold that wing without injuring themselves. And so that's all that's been put in my program, basically. So I encourage people to check it out, and I try to make it easy and quick so that it's something you can add to your routine without too much effort.
Yeah, and I was just checking it on your website. So you have it in English and in French, right? Which is great. You have yeah, that's good. And I totally second that, especially it's a new sport and people are still trying to find out how to position themselves. And then also today with COVID, there's a lot of things going on. People sit a lot, or people go from the sofa to the table and they work from home. And then when they go outside, right, they're not as mobile as before, as when we had to move and to go out to go to work. So it's a great way for prevention. And it's also a great way to push your limit. And I know you keep pushing your limit, surfing those big waves. So you want to make sure that you have healthy shoulder and staying mobile. So that's great. We will put the link in the page. So guys, if you want to click on it, you're interested, definitely I encourage you to go and check it out. That's great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Anything else you would like to share with us and you would like to tell us?
Well, it's just so cool. Like talking about foiling to me it brings so much optimism, and I feel like it opens up the playground that the ocean is to more people, to more possibilities. Because there's definitely an aspect of playing the ocean that can feel a little bit scary. You know, it's kind of like going to a gym. If you've never gone to a gym, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? These people know exactly what they're doing and I'm just a cook. But in foiling, it's kind of new for everyone. Like everyone is learning right now and discovering this sport together. And so it's fun to be part of this discovery and feel like we're all like finding new places where we can go, where we never thought to go to, but now with wing foiling, we can access and have fun in those places. So it's just really exciting.
I agree. It feels like we're little kids in a Christmas shop, right? We just like get all excited about new toys, about like, oh, I can go out there. I can surf these waves, which we would never look at it. Like probably for you would never windsurf a certain break. And now you look at it with different eyes because you're like, oh, I'm going to go wing foiling there. So it just opens brand new perspective.
Yeah.
Here we go. They agree again. Well, Sarah,
I would just add maybe one last thing is like for people, as much as this is fun and exciting, to also be safe and careful and out there, you know, like definitely consider wearing helmets if you want to have that extra safety, and also like going out with people, looking after each other, especially if you're doing like open ocean things. You want to have a partner that you're checking with. I was part of a rescue this year that ended well. But yeah, like foiling is fun. It's also something that can be dangerous. So be on the lookout. Not say that it's not worth doing, but yeah, take it also seriously. It's like everything, you know, you can get hurt. So think about what you would do in those situations and be prepared to react.
Yeah, that's a great tips. Absolutely. So thank you for reminding us to stay safe and have fun, right, in the process. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. I know it's getting windy in Maui and you want to go winging or foiling or whatever is you planned for the afternoon. What's on the schedule for the afternoon?
Hoping some wing foiling for the afternoon. It's been nuking here in Maui, so the wind swell has been building on the open ocean, and so yeah, I'm looking forward to go drop a cow downwind so that we can just rally and just do the easy part, just go down. I love that.
Awesome. And I already had my session because it's 6:30 in the evening here. So I'm already all relaxed, ready to chill.
Nice.
So I wish you a great afternoon session. And Sarah, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your knowledge and your great energy. So thank you.
Thanks, Audrey, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you guys for watching. See you soon on our next Pro Foil Talk with a new guest. Enjoy the ocean.